Sorry I'm late. My lunch ran a little bit longer than I thought. You guys are my last class of the semester, so I'm just excited as you guys to be kind of wrapping up. Of course, you guys have a big day tomorrow. I'm just unmuting you guys. I'm just talking to pass the time. Almost done. Who actually wait, don't answer that yet. I gotta finish unmuting everybody. Those of you that wrote 308 yesterday, was like kind of a mixed bag, right? Easy theory with hard math. Overall, didn't sound like a catastrophe. My hair isn't green anymore. Yeah, but this hat.
Yeah, there were some questions that we just like never seen before.
But never seen before and undoable, or just never seen before? You know what I mean? Like I heard there was the question on you put your money away and you make 5%, you lose 5%. You make 5%.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I had no clue. I was just like inputting on my calculator, like trying to do like 15, 20 times, get an approximate. I had no idea how to do it.
If you make 5%, William, wouldn't you just multiply that by 1.05?
Yeah, and then
you lose 5%, you multiply by 0.95.
Okay, yeah.
And then it was 20 years, right? So 10 times each.
Didn't think of that.
I get it. During the exam is stressful, but that was it.
What's the answer?
It's like 975 or something.
Yeah, that's what I put.
But I don't get why would you lose money if like it's going up and down.
Me either.
I don't understand that concept.
Because you're losing, because this happens after this one. So this compounds on this. So the first 5%, you're making it on 1,000, but the second 5%, you're losing it on 1,050. So you're actually losing a little bit more than you're gaining.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
That's why when I just did it on my calculator a bunch of times, I saw that it was like going down. So then I just went with 975. I hope that's right.
Perfect. All right, let's. What's that?
Did you enjoy your pizza?
Not gonna lie, it broke a little bit in the oven because I made the middle too thin, but it was delicious.
John.
Okay, let's get into it. A lot of you guys here today. I'm happy to see that. So that's, I guess, a combination of being motivated and I guess being desperate for some of you. Who knows? I hope that we're all going to do well tomorrow. I have confidence that you guys will. Who worked on the exam before coming in? I know those of you doing 308 maybe didn't have a chance, but let's just curious. I'm still going to pick on all of you. Okay. But I'm going to start with those of you that said that they worked on it. Okay, sweet. I did, but did not finish. That's okay. So for today, right, this is our last thing together. No notes. Okay, you guys are just you, me, and the exam. So if I ask you to solve a question, I want you to try to do it without looking at your notes. You're not going to have your notes tomorrow. Okay. Let's get into it. I know there was one question where there was a table missing. One of you guys brought it to my attention last night. I'll show you guys. I think it's question 25. You were saying, Rob, but I'll put that on the screen when we get there. Let's start. Maybe Michael M. You want to start us off today?
Yeah, sure. I was gonna say every time we do a mock, you always ask me first, just randomly.
You're the first person. You're the first one that raises their. I go with the first person who raised their hand. So you're right to go.
Okay. Honestly, I'm not too sure for this one because like I got an answer, but anyways, I did the interest rate parity formula. So good. Like F over R. So okay, so I said so for the foreign it's the euro and the domestic is Canadian.
Good.
So yeah, so F over R times 1 plus foreign interest equals 1 plus domestic interest. So that's F over 50 Yeah, f over 50, 1 plus 0.03
Mhm.
equals 1 plus 0.06.
And you got?
I got 51.456. That's why I found it weird, because is it possible there's missing fives in the answers?
I got the same answer.
No, there was only 4 options. I'm gonna
I
pull
got
out the
1.46.
No, but I'm saying, is there missing 51.46, 50.69, 51.53? You know what I mean? Because it gives
Oh, it's
51.46.
the 5 missing.
Yeah,
You know what? I bet it is. I bet you these. Okay.
because that gave me 51.46.
Yeah, I realized that a lot of our mocks, especially with real exams, are written by software, and the software sometimes confuses things, right? I think if I look at the original now, these are actually all 5s,
Yeah,
and it mistook it for dollar sign, which is kind of odd. And if that's the case, then you get exactly one of the answers, right? You get
D. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good, because that's what I wasn't sure of. I was like, maybe I used the wrong formula.
No, you did the right thing. So that's I'll see if that happens throughout the exam. I have the original. The original is just blurry. Luca, what's up?
Was it D? Because like I did just the 1.06 divided by 1.03 minus 1 times 50.
Yeah, it's the same. You're using the same formula, just rearranged. So it's
Oh, okay. And I also have another question regarding like forward and real exchange. Is for like, let's say if it would say like real exchange, would it be like you would just do the opposite? I guess it would be foreign over domestic if it would be rearranged.
if you were doing real exchange rate, you would be doing foreign over domestic. That's what you said, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was my question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Perfect.
Is this the same formula as the F is equal to R times, and then it's the foreign over domestic or domestic over foreign? I forget.
Yeah. So like the interest rate parity formula is rearranged a bunch of times. So this is one of them, but if you rearrange it, you get every other version you guys may have seen, but it all ends up being the same thing.
So the spot right here is 50.
Exactly.
Got it.
Okay, great. Question number 2, no typos in the options. Perfect. Let me get to this thing. And let's hear from Emil.
Yeah, so what I did was I said that in 2020 the price was $79 and the CPI was 137.
Okay.
And for 2005 the CPI was 107. So at that point I just did 79 divided by 137 times 107, and it got me 61.7.
Perfect. Chapter 1.
Okay, that's good.
It's perfect. Yeah. So you're the so for those of you that got the same answer but didn't do it exactly the same, you did do it exactly the same, right? It's just maybe you're used to the CPI base over CPI current times price. So Emil did the same thing, but he divided his price by CPI instead. Mathematically, there's no difference. This is a perfect way to do it. Keep doing it like that.
Okay, I was just confused because maybe it was only me, but like it's as if you weren't writing anything down when I was speaking, and it all popped up at once. So I just thought that like everything I was doing was wrong, and you were waiting for someone to get it right before writing it. So
It was the same for me.
No, I know what it is. When I open something else on my end, sometimes it pauses my screen share. Yeah, if that happens, if you see me writing but you don't see anything on the screen or whatever, just let me know. But I'll keep an eye on that. No, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. Any questions? It looks like most of you guys did get it right, except for one. So that's maybe you used the one person that wrote B. Did you use 100 as your base, as your CPI base? Maybe that's. Okay. Anyways, keep an eye on that. Right?
Sorry, I did 79 over 107 times 107.
Oh, so you ended up
Yeah, I forgot to use for 137.
Okay, you recognize your mistake, all right? We'll make it again.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, question 3. Where's my list? Rian.
For this one, I drew the bond graph first. So if they want to lower like inflation, so prices of bonds will go up. So I mean, the demand for bonds will go up, and the supply will go down. And there you can see that like it's so like it just corresponds to like demand for bond rising and supply declining, leading to lower future interest rates.
You're saying the answer is C.
Yeah.
Let's see what the group thought. The group, for the most part, agreed with you, but we had almost 10 people that didn't. But yeah, central banks attribute high prices to supply side bottlenecks. Okay, central banks try to lower expectation of future inflation. So that's your key here. How does that affect? So this is just basically the Fisher effect, right? Like you said, how does that affect everything? The supply of bonds, you said, if there's lower inflation, would go down, the demand would go up.
Yeah.
If demand goes up, price goes up, quantity goes up. If supply goes down, price goes supply goes down, price goes up, quantity goes down. Okay, so you said demand for bonds rises, supply declines, leading to lower future interest rates. Very good. So at this point, right, this should be easy, right? The Fisher effect was on your second exam. You don't even need the graph. The graph is helpful, but I think this is fine as well. Any questions about this, Luca?
Yeah. So I just have a question regarding this. So just can we do it using like chapter 11 with like the way the interest rates move, like with like expected inflation, like through demand and supply?
Yeah, I mean, you already knew that lower inflation means lower interest. So I could have just from that crossed off D and B because inflation falls, interest falls inflation, right? But then you still have the Fisher effect of how like demand hates inflation, supply likes inflation. If you put that together, you're good.
Yeah, that's what I did. I just used like chapter 11.
That's it. That's what this is. It's perfect.
Okay, trying to make sure it's the right logic.
Yes, sir. No.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I got it right. So it's either the person is going to be investing in bonds or wanting money in cash, right? Like it doesn't have anything to do with investing in stocks or things like that, right?
Right.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah. In the A where it says a lower future nominal interest rate, is that the same? Like, what is that exactly? The future nominal interest rate versus just future interest rate? Could have meant that?
No, I mean it's pretty much without making a distinction. If I say nominal interest rate or I just say interest rate, there isn't really a difference.
Okay.
Nominal interest rate that we see, right, versus the real rate, which is what you get after you consider inflation. So to me, that nominal doesn't stand out.
Okay, because I was wondering that maybe you could like already cross off A, B, and D just because of that little detail of nominal, but.
I don't know. I think maybe, but I think it's better to have the full picture.
Yeah. Well, right? Yeah. I used the Fisher thing there. Yeah.
Rian, what's up? Or is that from before?
Yeah, I think that's from before.
Very good. So, yeah, most of you guys did choose the right answer. That is a very good sign. Let's go to question number 4. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. Question 4, Olivier.
I chose C.
Shallow integration, reduction of tariffs. Yeah, that's like the definition, right? So that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Looks like you all agree, except 4 of you. You 4 need to go and look at chapter 13 today, because if you don't know that shallow integration is a reduction of tariffs, then you've not opened chapter 13. So you need to, right? You should be making a list for yourselves. Chapter 13, right? High on your list. Question 5. Sarah.
Honestly, I read the question and I just couldn't do it.
I feel like something's missing. Hold on a second. You guys feel like something's missing?
John, can I give it a shot?
I feel like something's missing.
Well, I'm just checking if this is supposed to be zero, but I mean, it makes sense because it's a liquidity premium on a 1-year bond. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, Rob, go ahead.
Okay, so this is obviously a forward interest rate question.
Yeah,
So-
you can tell.
Yeah. So they give us the 1 year and 2 years, so we have to figure out the 2-year forward rate. Am I right?
1 year forward rate.
Okay, yeah, the 1-year forward rate for the second year. So what I did was the formula I did for the numerator, I did 1 plus the interest rate of the second year, which is 0.0575, minus the liquidity premium of the second year, which is 0.0025 to the power of 2.
Very good.
And then for the denominator, I did 1 plus the interest rate of the first year, which is 0.05, minus the liquidity premium of the first year, which is 0 to the power of 1, minus 1, and I got 6%.
Yeah. So not a lot of you guys answered this question. Meanwhile, we did this together at the weeklies when we did chapter 12. It was the last part of chapter 12, right? I showed you guys how to use the forward rate formula. Now, the way that you know it's a forward rate question is look at what they're asking you, okay? The little E there is expected. That's the symbol for a forward rate. Luca.
Yeah, like I read this question, and like usually I know do liquidity, but I was like, what the heck is this with all like it looked like algebra. I was like, I had no idea how to do this. I was like, I have to just guess.
Yeah, no, I mean it's with the symbols, maybe that's an L, that's liquidity premium, right?
Yeah, it was just confusing.
The symbols, yeah, but those are the symbols, right? So if you come across this question on your exam again, it'll be the same symbols. The little E tells you you're doing a forward rate, and the L's, L for liquidity. These are liquidity premiums.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. You think this might be a type of question that gets asked as long answer in the exam tomorrow? It could be. It could be, right? They're gonna have to give you 4 questions, right? So it could be a long question, but could also easily be an MCQ. John, what's up? Wait. I can't hear you. Hold on.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah, it's better.
The 2T and the 1T, does that mean like year 2 and first year?
1 year, 2 year, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
John, I was wondering how they would like ask for the long-term interest rate for the expectation theory or liquidity premium theory like in the same way, because like they're both INT, I think, or INT, so they would have to specify like if they want expectation or
Yeah. They would have to specify because they look the same, those 2 questions, right?
Okay.
John, if let's say by example it was we had to find a 2-year forward rate, would it be IT plus 2?
Yeah. No, it would be if they wanted a 2-year forward rate, then your T here would be a 2. So you would need like the 3rd year and the 2nd year. It's kind of weird the way they write those things. I'm not that a bit too, but if you want to, let's say if you want a 1-year forward rate, you need the 2-year information and the 1-year information, right? So you always need those 2 periods.
Okay, perfect.
Ina, what's up?
Sorry, is it always the first year interest rate that's the denominator? Is that how it works?
It's the shorter period. There's always going to be you're always going to use 2. Let's say a 3-year and a 4-year. You always put the 4-year on top, 3-year at the bottom. If it's a 5 and a 4, you put the 5-year at the top, 4 at the bottom.
Okay, so technically the lowest at the bottom, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So it's just interest minus premium to whatever amount of years, and the lowest is on the bottom.
1 plus interest, right, for following year, plus 1, minus the liquidity premium of T plus 1 to the power T plus 1 over 1 plus the interest of time T plus the liquidity of time T to the power T minus 1.
Okay, perfect. And the denominator is always the smallest. Okay, thank you.
But John, I don't understand now why it's 2 at the top and 1, because I put 3 as the exponent and then 1 and 2 at the bottom.
Well, because this is a 1-year interest rate, so that's how you know, right? That this T is 1, and the 2-year interest rate, that's 2. So your exponent should match the rate. This is a 2-year rate. This is a 2-year liquidity premium. You put a 2 up here.
Oh,
This is a
okay.
Yeah, those all
Okay.
match.
Okay.
All right. Question 6. This poll's been running for a little bit. Let's ask.
John, I just have a quick question for question 5.
Okay.
Yeah, is it a fluke that if we just take the 5.75% plus the 0.25%, it's gonna give us the right answer, which is 6? Like, is it just pure luck for this, or?
It's a fluke. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. Marie-Laurence. Are you with us? My mom. Okay, she's having a bite. We'll come back to you. Fawaz. Fawaz, are you with us?
Oh, me? I didn't hear you.
Oh, yeah, you, sir.
But since I did this mock without my notes, so I don't really remember the theory, but I assume D because no one would want to enable free riders. So that's
Yeah. It just doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, but when I picked the poll, I put B by mistakes.
Okay, that's okay. Still do that on the exam. But yeah, an investment bank, no bank really, not an investment bank, venture capital. Nobody would really enable other investors to free ride on its verification activities. Okay, I guess I didn't read the entire thing, but address the principal agent problem. Invest in risky startups. Yes, they do that for sure. Appoint its own people as directors. Yes, it does that for sure. Addresses the principal agent problem. Enables other investors to free ride on its verification activities. Yeah, no.
John.
Yeah.
It addresses the principal agent problem by appointing its own people as directors in the company.
Smart. Perfect. This is what, chapter 9. So pretty scattered, but most of you guys did choose D. That's good. Okay. By the way, this is last semester's exam, the one that they did in April. So I'm seeing it for the first time with you guys. And I'm going to try and let you know if there's any other typos, but it's been pretty good so far. Okay. Rian.
Oh, I just wanted to answer question 7.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so if they can exactly exchange €1 for 2.50, that's a hard peg. So C.
Very good. 100% of you got that right. Don't give away the free marks, right? It's always the same exchange rate. That is a hard peg. Excellent.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We saw this yesterday, no, with the soft peg. Is that what you're? That's
Yeah.
how I made the connection because you said the hard peg was like that, right?
Exactly. Perfect.
Okay.
Right. The soft peg, there's a bit of variation. There's a range. Hard peg is perfect.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes, sir. Good. Question 8. Natalie, going to participate today, said.
I did say that. I put C for this one.
The following is traded on the money market, commercial paper. Absolutely.
But John, a treasury bond also, but the fact that it says 2 years to maturity means it's not in the money market.
Yeah, that's it. So the money market is only short term, right? So if this were a less than 1 year, that would be fine. But because it's 2 year, long-term assets are traded on the capital markets. So looks like most of you guys got that one right. Chapter 8. Just definitions. Commercial loans, those of you that answer commercial loans, you don't trade commercial loans. You can't, there's no market to trade loans. Okay, goodbye. Preferred shares, those are shares, so that's long term, that's capital markets. 2 year T-bills or treasury bonds. Also long term, so capital markets. All right. Brian, question?
Yeah, can you explain commercial paper again?
Yeah, commercial paper is like it's kind of like a very, very short-term loan. It's kind of like a bond. It has a lot of the same characteristics as a bond. If I show you the exact word for word definition of it, you'll see that it's, imagine like a very, very, very short-term bond. Can we do this? I'm going to give you the textbook definition. Here, it's commercial paper. Unsecured, short-term debt instrument issued by banks and corporations that pays interest rates depending on risk level, right? So you see, it's kind of like in between a T-bill, which is completely risk-free, and a bond, right? It's not really a bond because it's so short-term, but imagine, like the easiest way to think of it is like a very, very short-term bond. Okay.
Yeah, cool.
All right, 9. 9 looks like a chapter 12 question. I'll ask Marie-Laurence, you still having a snack?
I'm fine. Okay, so I put, honestly, I'm not sure, but I put D. I guessed, honestly, because I don't know what bond rating agencies were.
Assessing the credit default and liquidity risk of issuers. Yeah, they definitely assess the credit and default risk. I don't know that they assess the liquidity risk, but I can check.
Yeah, John, I did check.
And?
I couldn't find it anywhere about liquidity.
That's the thing. I don't know that because when you look at a bond's rating, and Marie-Laurence, remember in chapter 12 when we first started talking about, like, when you start chapter 12, I give you guys a table and say, oh, there's like AAA bonds, there's AA bonds. Those are the credit ratings that are issued by these agencies, and they are to measure a company's default risk. Default risk is the ability or the risk that they don't pay back. I'm not sure that they measure liquidity risk, right? So that's not, the liquidity risk is really just the maturity of the bond. So you don't really get a rating for that. And if you weren't able to
A then, like assessing the credit and default risk.
that's what I would pick here. I'm inclined. I checked the textbook and it didn't mention anything about liquidity risk. Yeah, exactly. Like I don't see. So I've got it here. Basically, credit rating agencies. Okay, because default risk is so important to the size of the risk premium, purchasers of bonds need to know whether a corporation is likely to default on its bonds. This information is provided by credit rating agencies. So, and it says these agencies provide the probability of default. Nothing about liquidity. Okay.
I have a question regarding this. So the other responses, why are they false? And I'm just trying to understand the bond rating agencies. I'm still having a hard time understanding that.
So you know what Equifax is for us, for you personally?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a credit rating agency that tells us Luca has a credit score of 800. He's definitely going to pay us, right? That's exactly what this is for companies.
Okay.
Companies have, but it's credit ratings are really your ability, the risk that you don't pay. It has nothing to do with liquidity.
Oh, okay. Okay, based on credit score. Okay, thank you so much.
That's it. Yeah, but we don't use numbers for companies. We use letters, AAA, AA, and stuff like that.
Is there another way they could ask this question, or is that like really the only way they can ask it?
Yeah, that's all you really need to know about credit rating agencies.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Fawaz.
Can I go for 10?
Yeah, hold that thought. Bianca, question for 9? Or was it to also?
So do you know who assesses liquidity risk of issuer then?
I don't think anyone does. I think that's not a thing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Rian, did you have a question or was it volunteer? Or was that from before?
Yeah, that was from before. I don't know why.
That's okay. Let's put up the next one. I thought I did it. Yeah, okay. So Fawaz, let's go.
Yeah, so first I found equilibrium without the tax. and I got a price of 1.6 and a quantity of 66.6.
Okay.
Then I added the tax to the price and the demand curve, and I did to calculate the new P and Q. I got a quantity of 60 and a price of 1.
So this is the price that the supplier charges. You got 1 for that?
Yes, and the quantity of 60.
Okay.
Then I plugged the 60 into my demand, supply. In my demand curve.
Did you draw it out so you can see where you have a direction?
I did.
You did, good. Yeah, that's definitely, you want to draw it out, right? So when you're looking for deadweight loss, so you had your original equilibrium price, which was 1.6. The new one after the tax is here at 1.
Yeah.
Okay, and now just without the without anything, just tell me where exactly is the deadweight loss?
It's the triangle between the on the left of the equilibrium.
Like right here. Huh?
Yeah, this one.
Very good. That's important, guys. Just being able to identify, because if you know that, then you're not wasting your time doing things you don't need. So far you've been very efficient. You've only told me numbers I actually need. So what am I missing here?
Yeah. So the intersect with the 60, like when the Q is 60, and the original demand curve. So I put 60 equals 100 minus 20p. I got p of 2.
So if I go to my original demand and plug that in, because this is 60, and plug in 60, you said you got a p of 2?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And then I just did the area of the triangle.
Mm-hmm.
The base is 1.
Mm-hmm.
The height is 6.6 because it's the difference.
Yeah.
Quantities. So base times height divided by 2, I got 3.33 million.
Excellent. Very, very good. Looks like almost everybody got the same thing. Ina, what's up?
I found the same thing, but I plugged it into my quantity supply. Does that make a big difference? Does that change much? Because I did literally get to the same answer, but like, am I doing it the wrong way? Was it luck that I got to the same answer?
What did you plug into your quantity supply?
So instead of what he did with the demand, I just did, hold on. I just did 50 plus 10 times P plus 1. So like just the opposite of what he did. And then like I found my new, price and quantity. I found my area and I got to the same answer, but I definitely did it differently. So was that the wrong way? Like, should I only?
No, it's not the wrong way. No. So it really depends on how you first learned taxes. Some of you guys do it differently. So Fawaz did it the way that I teach, where you add it to the thing in demand. You did it differently, but it's not actually wrong. It's totally fine.
So I can keep doing it like that and I'll still get to the same answer, right?
Yeah, as long as because you got to the right answer, right? So that means that you know how to use that method. So I wouldn't change it at this point. It's perfect.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it's something that I can keep using and like it's not gonna give something wrong or whatever. Thank you.
For these questions, you can use it, no problem. Yeah.
But the way you taught it, it's tax to demand and subsidy to supply.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. That's what Fawaz did here. Michael?
Yeah, so if you could just refresh my memory. So tax we added to the demand, then we get the price, and then from the price that we get, we're gonna put that into the function back again. That's what you did.
You're gonna add the tax to the demand function here and solve for price. And what you're finding is the price before it's tax. You're finding the price that the supplier charges. That's the $1. Then you plug, and then you find, if you plug it back in, you also get your quantity. So you're gonna get the quantity.
Okay.
To get the $2, I mean, so Fawaz, you actually took you did this, but you could have also added $1, right? Because it's the tax. So the price that the consumer is going to pay is just this number plus the tax. So you could have saved me yourself maybe 1 second. That's how you get the number up here. That's the price the consumer pays.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, other Michael?
Yeah, I'm just not understanding how you got the 60. So like, I know you put it back in, but 100 minus 20
times 2.
Oh, is that a 2 next to the 20, or is that a P? Like
No, it's a P. 1 plus 1 is 2.
Okay, then that makes sense.
I don't think I've ever said that in my class.
John, sorry, like I just want to be 100% certain. The 2 in this case is the price that the consumers are gonna pay, right?
Very, very good.
Okay, so it's PD, the price that the consumers pay, equals the price that the suppliers receive plus the tax.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good. PC, PD, I don't know what you call it PD, I call it PC, but it's the same thing, yeah. Cool. This all starts with knowing your graphs, though, and after that, knowing your steps. Tax has come up a lot, right? If you're not sure like what you should prioritize, if you're going to spend a little bit of time on chapter 3, make sure you understand how to do tax questions. 11. Where am I on my list here? Mark.
I think for this one I put B because well, the way I did it was like, I remember if price goes up, interest rates go down, so it's the opposite. So if interest rate go up, price goes down.
Yeah, this is a free.
Yeah, negatively related.
Perfect. So it looks like you guys, it was almost perfect. Whoever answered A, right, read carefully. Interest rates and bond prices go in opposite directions, always. So that's one of those free marks. Let's not give those away. 12, Bianca.
I put A. I think, yeah, I used the table. And how I interpreted was that the Canadian consumer are purchasing fewer American product. So that means, oh wait, no. I think I just used my logic.
Yeah, that's just correct.
Okay, thank you.
But it is the table. That's the business cycle, the second one, right? If consumers are purchasing fewer American products, then they don't need as many American dollars, right? So
right. Okay, yeah. I wasn't 100% traded yesterday.
Yeah, purchasing power parity. Oh, you're right. It is purchasing power parity. This is the first one, the long-term effect. Rob.
John, so just to be sure, when the demand side is only when the domestic side is considered, but supply is only considered when we're talking about foreign, is that right? Like supply wouldn't change in this case because we're talking about domestic Canada, right?
Yeah, the supply of US dollars is not what's going to change. When we're looking at Canada as the home country and we're talking about the US dollar, we look at our demand for it.
Okay, perfect.
Michael.
Yeah, for that table, is it important to like know like purchasing power parity and that it's long run?
Yes.
I haven't. Yeah.
It came up, it came up yesterday, I think, or the day before on one of the exams. It is like, I think it's like straight up asked you, purchasing power parity is like medium run, long run, short run, or something else, and you had to actually know. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. The table that we're referring to, it's just a table in your textbook, basically. If you look at chapter 15 in your textbook, it's probably one of the first things that you see. So those of you that you have the same book, you have the same table in the SOS notes. Those of you that did the weekly, but this is it in your textbook, basically. Mark.
John, is there a case where supply and demand shift on the graph for that? Like both move?
The supply would only ship. There's nothing that would cause supply to shift other than the Central Bank of Canada increasing the supply? Like that would have to be actually done by, it wouldn't just happen on its own.
Actually, John, there was a situation in class where the teacher told us that the supply would also move, and it was if the federal interest rate in the US would increase. So Americans would supply less US dollars to Canada, and Canada would demand more US currency. So the supply would shift left, and the demand would shift right.
Supply of what? The supply of US dollars?
Yeah, the supply of US dollars would shift left because Americans would supply less US dollars, and demand would shift right because Canada would demand more US dollars.
So there would be less supply of US dollars because Americans are not selling their US dollars to us.
But we're demanding more because their interest rates are higher.
Yeah, so that's kind of in line with the table again, right? With the if interest rates decrease here or increase there, then our demand will rise. But the fact that the supply is decreasing doesn't actually change it, because I'm looking, because I've noticed that all your profs have kind of their own style and like to teach specific things, but your exam is going to be written based on the book. So the book doesn't really talk about the supply. So I don't think you need to worry about it too much, because it sounds like you're talking about the third row of the table, interest rate parity, where if home interest rates fall or foreign interest rates rise, our demand will rise. True. The fact that the US is going to supply less currency to us, I don't think really changes anything. But yeah, but I mean, it's definitely true. Yeah. Anna?
So just to be sure, so is it enough for me to know basically what we did in tutorials, like the demand side? Because like, yeah, our teacher showed supply and demand. I understood it, but like, I think it's intuitive, but like, I'm still, when I look at what he explained, it confuses me based on what we did. Because we only use demand.
Yeah, I know. But I feel like even if you only use, you would still reach the same conclusions. Like your profs obviously are teaching you beyond the bounds of the textbook, which is fine, which is great. That's kind of their job. But as far as your exam goes, I think if you just know, you understand how demand, local demand for foreign currencies changes and how that plays a role on exchange rates, I think you should be good.
Okay, thanks.
Right, Bianca?
So I did the Pearson problems, and some of them is like draw the graph for that topic. So I just want to be sure, let's say if there's a more rapid growth in Canada than US, it's just the supply that moves and not the demand. And then the rest, I took note that it does shift the supply and the demand.
You're talking about?
For example, like when goods relatively more expensive in Canada than US and future Canadian depreciation, it will cause the demand to decrease and supply to increase. That's from Pearson. And so I don't know if it's 100% true.
No, it's definitely true. That's just word for word. It's, again, Pearson is just kind of spitting out. If you open your textbook, like there's like a page on every graph. Like I'm looking at I'll show you guys what I'm looking at actually. Right, if you look at your textbook here, I mean, you can kind of run through this in your, because you guys all have the textbook where you look at all of the effects, like the effects of increasing the demand for British pounds. But then what you were talking about was kind of in line. I think this is actually what you were talking about also, Robert, right? How the effects of increasing home's interest rate is going to move the supply and the demand. So you can go and read up on that in the book. I just don't, and then that's it. They don't really talk about what you're saying here and how. Trying to see if there's anything else like that. Fixed exchange rates. No, now we're past that.
And John, in a fixed exchange rate, let's say the demand for US dollars would increase, it would be offset by supply increase, right? The government would.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
That's like what we had seen in class, how a fixed exchange rate is kind of orchestrated by the central bank. So if there's an increase in demand, right, then the central bank will increase supply to keep the exchange rate there.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's go to question 13. This looks like a trade question. 14. And let's hear from this Sasha.
I put A.
How'd you get there?
So I did like Canada could either do 13 soy or 7 quinoa. And then I found that 1 soy equaled 0.538 for quinoa, and 1 quinoa equaled 1.8571 soy. And then Brazil could either produce 5 soy or 13 quinoa. And then I did 1 soy equals 2.6 quinoa, and 1 quinoa equals 0.3846 soy. And then you see that Canada has a comparative advantage in soy, and Brazil has a comparative advantage in quinoa. And Brazil should export quinoa to Canada and import Canadian soybeans.
Very good. Excellent. That's how you do it. You guys just, all you need to answer this question is figure out what does Brazil have the comparative advantage in? It has it in quinoa, so that's what they should export. And if they're exporting that, they're importing soybeans, right? So it looks like almost all of you got it right. Ariane, what's up?
Do we even have to go through all that? I mean, there's like competitive advantage there.
There's what?
There's competitive advantage. Like for Canada, it's 13 soybeans, and for Brazil, 13 quinoas.
Well, there's absolute advantage you're talking about, but
yeah, I meant that, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, you shouldn't. Yes, here it would work, and a lot of times it works, but you can't assume necessarily that if a country has absolute advantage, that it's going to necessarily have comparative advantage. So while it's a good guess for sure, I mean, you want to play it safe and at least calculate one of them. Like you knew the answer as soon as you knew this, but yeah, you try not to assume, at least conceptually, to know that absolute advantage doesn't necessarily imply comparative advantage. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. 14. 14 is a chapter 13 question. Let's hear from Luca.
So I put D, just because of the simple equation. It's obviously imports plus exports divided by GDP. So that's what I did. I just put D.
Yeah, it's just a formula. If you know your formula, you know you get this mark for free. Okay. Okay. Do you think we'll have graphs to do on the exam and like the board problems, or will it be mostly subsidy attack for all the price types of problem graphs? Because these recent, yeah. So I mean, they didn't have to do any graphs obviously in the last few years because the exams are online. But you might, I mean, they could ask you to graph, right? And I mean, by now you guys like chapter 3, you should know your graphs. Chapter 6, like you should know your leisure income graphs and what that means. So and that's where like Pearson is really helpful because there's a lot of questions to make you graph. So I don't think it's impossible that they'll make you, I think it is possible they make you graph, but the graphs are already something that you should be doing while you're solving questions, right? So does your graph have to be perfect? No, not necessarily, as long as it has all the elements. Sure. But if you want to practice that, I know Pearson has a ton of questions on graph this, graph that. John.
Capital flows, because when I was reading this, because I knew the formula, it was export plus import over GDP, and I'm like, oh, it's GDP.
Capital flow is like when you have actual capital moving from one country to another. For example, let's say I buy an office in Florida, okay, and I spend $1 million. That's capital flow. but it's not part of trade. It's not an import or an export. You understand the difference? So it's like when you look at chapter 13, capital and labor mobility, that's not trade. Okay, Jessica.
Can you just scroll back up to question 13, please?
Sure.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay. 15. Let's ask Tyler.
Yeah, for this one, I used the pass-through function and then multiplied it by the subsidy. I don't know if that's how everybody did it, but essentially I took the slope for supply over the slope for supply minus the slope for demand. That gave me 0.5.
Yeah.
And then I multiplied it by 3 and gave me 150. And that's how much is going to the workers.
Yeah, perfect. So that's the way I would do it. Pass through fractions, the quickest way to do it. Anything else is like fine, but it's not efficient. Anna.
You kind of answered my question right now.
You did it the long way.
Yeah, I just found like the equilibrium price, and I deducted the amount.
Of this, yeah, it's fine. It's great, but it's obviously much longer, right? Than the way you did it. But it's also good. Rian.
Wait, you can do pass-through fraction for subsidy as well, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works exactly the same way.
Okay.
Exactly the same way. Luca.
Yeah, no, I literally just did, I found the equilibrium wage and then I just subtracted the 5 W minus 3 for labor demand, and I just subtracted them. That's okay.
Yeah, it's right for sure.
Oh, okay.
Right, but it's longer. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. All right.
Paul.
Yeah, just to make sure the subsidy you added to the supply, like if you did it the long way to find it, because I did it the long way. You added to the supply.
Yeah.
And the supply in this case is the workers.
The supply in this case is the workers. Okay. Jessica, is that before? Is that a new answer?
I would like to know if I do it this way, like the new pass-through equation, like how do I know if the answer would be an increase or decrease?
Context. So a subsidy a subsidy is better basically. A subsidy increases what the supplier gets, right? In this case, the supplier is the worker, and it decreases what the consumer pays. Subsidy is good for both sides. The tax is bad for both sides. The tax increases what the consumer pays and decreases what the supplier gets. So it's not about the formula, but about the context.
Okay, so it goes with subsidy and tax, you should know from that.
Exactly. Tax, both sides lose money and the government gains. A subsidy, both sides gain and the government is losing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Julie.
Can you do it the long way?
Why?
I just want to see it.
You get okay, good. So here, this is if I take this and I add $3. Anyone have this number, the wage here?
Yeah, it's 6.5.
6.5. And what is it at equilibrium?
8.
Oh, okay, I get it.
All right, don't do it that way. I mean, do it that way, it's fine, but I mean, this is...
No, because I did it that way and I got 6.5, but then I didn't know to do it the other way to get 8 and then subtracted.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the one, yeah, exactly. So basically, this is going to show you the difference.
Okay.
Okay.
John, can we do the pass through with tax?
Yes, it's pass-through fraction is made for tax and subsidy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Michael, other Michael.
It was the same question as Michael.
Perfect. 16, Lindsay.
Okay, so sorry, I was just copying down what you just wrote. So what I did was obviously the cross price elasticity. I put the slope of 3 from the equation
Mhm.
and then multiplied that by the 3 from the PS over 19, and I found 19 by putting the numbers like in the quantity equation, and then it gave me 0.47, which is D.
Did I forget to put it? Oh no, here it is. Okay, good. Looks like it's perfect, by the way. Looks like everybody mostly got that right. This is chapter 2, and I forgot to put this one. This one's chapter. Like, it depends on how you look at it. This is technically chapter 4 because it's wages, but we learned this mainly in chapter 3. So I always say that this is like a 3-4 question. Olivier.
Yeah, just to make sure on question 15, if the pass-through was 0.3, we would do 0.7 times 3 or 0.3 times?
Yeah, so the question is how much would go to each worker, right? The worker is the supply. So exactly, if pass-through would have given you 0.3, that would be for the consumer, and you would take 0.7 for the supplier.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Ina.
Sorry, I'm just confused because I pretty much did the same thing for 16, but I used 5. I just like figured that's the one I would have to use. So why did we use the 3 instead? Sorry.
Because if you use 5, you're doing price elasticity, but the question is asking you for cross price elasticity. So you have to use the other product price.
Oh, okay. So if this asks for just price elasticity, then I would use the 5. But since it asks for cross price, I have to use PS.
If it was regular price elasticity, you would use 2 as your slope, -2, and you would use 5 as your price.
Yeah, and 19. Okay, that's what I had done. Okay, it's because it's cross price. Okay, thank you.
Jessica.
For question 15, I did the long way, and for the wage, that's 6.5. Do you have to like do the wage plus 3? So 6.5 plus 3 is 9.5.
Yeah, so it depends on what you're looking for, right? So 6.5 is the wage that the company would have to pay. If you add 3 to that, you're going to get the wage that the worker will actually get.
Okay, so that is like the correct way to do it in that sense, right?
Yeah, so here this 150 is actually the difference between this and this.
Yeah. Okay,
It's just
thank you.
right here. Yeah. Okay.
Still a question.
Luca.
Yeah, so this, because it confused me. I was like, what the heck? It's such a confusing question. So I've done so many of these, but like the PS, it's the cross price elasticity because it says the cross price elasticity of demand assuming P equals 5. So I had the understanding it was the second thing you wrote in purple because the P equals 5. So it's confusing.
Yeah, but I mean, like in every cross price question, there's always a second price. Like this Q and this P are for the same product. You can tell by the fact that you don't have a little there's nothing under it. But then PS, that's like the other product. That's the cross price.
Okay, so it's always like that because I thought maybe like this time they tricked us. Like I figured it was that, but I thought they just tricked us or whatever.
No. There's always a second price, and that's your cross price.
Okay, so it's PS. Okay, thanks.
Okay, it could be PS, could be P2, could be P anything, as long as it's not the P with nothing, right? Because the P that would be the wrong one. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Problem. All right, good stuff. 17 theory question from, again, you learned this in 2 chapters 2 and 3. Shelley?
Okay, so I actually tried to answer this without my notes, so I chose A.
A, so will fall mainly on the consumers if demand is inelastic?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hold on. Well, let's consider the other ones.
The others didn't make sense to me technically, so let's go with that.
What did we learn? We learned that the side that is less elastic will pay more of the tax.
Exactly.
So Right, exactly. So the demand is inelastic. Okay, makes sense. But let's still rule out the other ones. If quantity demanded is relatively large in the consumer's basket, no, not necessarily, right? The ratio of price elasticity of demand to price elasticity of supply is large. Okay, the ratio of elasticity of demand to elasticity of supply. If this is large, it means that the demand is more elastic. So that would be wrong, right? And the ratio of price elasticity of demand to price elasticity of supply is small. That means that this one is less elastic. So I think this is the better answer. So I'll tell you why. You have the right reasoning, right? If the side is less elastic, but just telling you demand is inelastic doesn't tell me anything, because what if supply is more inelastic?
Okay.
But but D tells me both, that here the ratio of this to this is low. That means this one is lower, right? That would be lower, this would be higher. That would cause the ratio to go down. You understand?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Can you just explain A? Because if the demand is inelastic, wouldn't that mean that most of it would fall on the producer?
But how do we know if the producer is not also inelastic? See, the problem with A is that it doesn't tell you anything about the supply. You get what I'm saying? You can have inelastic demand and have even more inelastic supply. It didn't say that demand is more inelastic, whereas D does, right? D says the ratio of elasticity is small. So to me, that implies that you have low elasticity demand or high elasticity of supply. So
Can you please repeat what you did here, because I'm lost.
it's just a theory, right? The side that is less elastic will pay more of the tax. So
because continue.
Go ahead. No, that's it.
I just don't. I chose C. I don't understand.
The ratio of price elasticity of demand is high. So look, the ratio of elasticity of demand to elasticity of supply is high. If this is high, it means one of two things. Either that demand is very elastic, right? Or supply is not very elastic, right?
Okay, so because demand is very elastic here, that doesn't mean that means that it can't be C.
Exactly. And then D is saying the opposite. The ratio is low.
John.
Yes.
Yes. If we try to do it with numbers, I get C. Because let's say, for example, elasticity of demand is 100 and elasticity of supply is 2. Like, let's use way different numbers just so it's easier to compare, right? So if elasticity of demand is 100 and elasticity of supply is 2, to get how much of the tax is going to fall on consumers, you do the elasticity of demand over everything, right? So 100 over 102, which would mean that the ratio of demand to the price of supply is large.
Wait. Elasticity of supply.
Yeah, if elasticity of demand is 100 and elasticity of supply is 2, for example.
I'm going to use pass-through. That's what you're saying to do?
Yeah, let's do the pass-through. But to find how much is going to fall on the consumer, right? So to find the consumer, you do the elasticity of demand, right?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
You answered your own question, right?
Yeah. I have to use elasticity of supply. Okay.
Don't forget, the real pass-through, which is elasticity of supply on top, tells you for the consumer.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I got confused. Sorry.
Okay, but it's a good approach, guys. He's saying, well, look, I'm just going to use the math. Pass-through fraction proves it. I chose a high elasticity of demand and a low elasticity of supply, which would make the ratio low, obviously, or rather, I guess this one is kind of. Feel like, okay, elasticity of demand is high, elasticity of supply is low. That means that the consumer will only pay 19% of the tax. That's not what the question is asking. The question is asking the opposite. Okay, yeah. It almost gets more confusing when you use the math. The math is perfect. The concept is better. Just understanding that the one that is less elastic will pay more of the tax is really all you need to answer this question, Ina.
Would C be the tax burden on producers?
If the question had asked for the producer, like if the tax burden would fall mainly on the producer, then C would be correct. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So that means a higher ratio, it falls on producers, a lower one, it falls on consumers.
Yeah, but this is not a real ratio. Huh? This is just made up. There's nothing for you to
Yeah,
really
no, no,
memorize.
no, like if they word it like that, then that's what you should be looking at. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't really get the way that they worded it.
I mean, the ratio of elasticity of demand to supply is literally just a fraction of demand, elasticity of demand over supply. So if that's large, that means that demand is either, elasticity of demand is either high or elasticity of supply is either or low, which means that suppliers would pay more of the tax. D says this one, if the ratio is low, elasticity of demand is low, consumers pay more of the tax.
So the lower the elasticity, that's who pays the tax?
Very good. That's the whole thing. The side that is less elastic will pay more of the tax because their demand is or supply is not changing, right? If you tax me on gas, I'm still going to buy gas. So who's paying more of the tax on gas? The consumer. Okay. So this is just because the concept is far back, maybe for some of us, but just remember that the side that is less elastic will pay more of the tax. That's all you need, Michael.
Okay, so the consumer is, did you say it was elasticity of demand? Or was
Consumer
it?
demand? No, yeah, consumer's demand and producer supply.
Okay, okay. Good.
Yeah. Okay. Pretty scattered answers there, but that's okay. 18. 18. Let's ask Michael K.
I put C, both are incorrect.
The expectation theory is successful in explaining why the yield curve is upward sloping? No, right? That would be the...
That would be the liquidity.
Good. And why yield curves slope upwards when short-term interest rates are low?
That's false because if short-term rates are low, they would the yield curve would be constant and not upward.
Yeah, I feel like 1 and 2 are kind of saying the same thing.
John, I looked in the June Riley thing, and 2 is right because it literally says that word for word.
A yield curve slope upward when short-term rates are low. Expectation theory. Okay, let's look it up.
I'm not sure to find it.
Let's chat.
Wait, is 1 wrong, John?
Let's look it up. I feel because the upward sloping yield curve is the liquidity premium. That's like what makes it slope upwards is the liquidity premium.
One's right.
Hold on, let's find it.
See,
Expectation theory. Interest rates of falling point. Interest rates on a long-term bond will equally average the short-term rates that people expect. Okay, for interest rate on long-term bonds will equal. Okay, exactly.
See, John, I have it in front of me in the June Riley. It says the yield curve tends to have an upward slope when short-term interest rates are low, and that's expectation theory explains.
Okay, let's find it. I'm trying to find one. Leah, is that from the textbook or is that from... Right. This is what expectation theory explains. Explains why interest rates on bonds with different maturities move together over time. Yes. It explains why yield curves tend to slope up when short-term interest rates are low. So that's this. Good. Cannot explain why yield curves slope upward. Okay. So 1 is not true. Okay. This is, I guess, straight out of your notes. So only 2 is correct. That's why, I mean, we had a tie, really. Segmented explains. Yeah, so basically they can all I mean, liquidity premium theory can explain the upward sloping yield curve. The other one there, the preferred habitat theory reaches the same conclusion. That makes sense. Why yield curves slope upwards when short-term rates are low? I don't know why expectation theory would explain it. Expects to occur 11.
But expectations theory treats like all the rates as the same.
All bonds as perfect substitutes, yeah.
So then how would that make sense?
How would what make sense?
Like the second one?
Successful in explaining why the yield curve slopes upwards when short-term rates are low.
If they're all perfect substitutes, like,
What does it mean?
That's for maturities, not interest rates.
Yeah. Why the yield curve slopes upwards when short-term rates are low. Even the book doesn't really explain. It literally says word for word that, right? It explains why the yield curves tend to slope upwards when rates are low, but it doesn't really go into detail. I would just memorize this one, I guess. Number 2 is correct. Number 1 is false. That's liquidity premium. If short-term interest rates are expected to rise even higher after a 5-year period, the average short-term interest rates for the 20 years. Okay, yeah, I'm not disagreeing with the textbook for sure. Not before the exam, anyways. Luca.
John, I still don't get why. What? So the expectations theory doesn't successfully explain why the yield curve is usually upward sloping.
Yeah, I read that too. That's why I wasn't sure.
The upward sloping yield curve is basically what? So you have maturities and you have yields, right? Why does a 20-year bond yield more than a 5-year bond?
Because it's more sensitive, it's riskier.
It's riskier. What do we call the difference there? Like the extra
That's a steep upward slope? Doesn't that mean that interest rates are gonna short-term interest rates rise in the future?
You decided this was steep upwards, so that wasn't my intention. Okay, like this. Why does a 20-year, same question though, right? Why does a 20-year bond yield more than a 5-year bond?
Because you have to add the liquidity premium to it.
The liquidity premium. That's exactly it, right? So that's the liquidity premium theory. That's what explains the upward sloping yield curve.
Okay, so that's the thing. It's not expectations theory, it's liquidity premium theory.
Exactly, that's right. One is not true. It's not successful explaining why it's upward sloping.
So if it did say the liquidity premium theory is successful,
the liquidity premium theory, sure, absolutely.
Would both be right in that case?
Again, that depends on I don't know if I like this answer, but I mean the textbook says it. I would look it up in the textbook and see if it says it for that as well. But I mean, yeah, I don't see why not. The basically liquidity premium theory takes expectations theory and for the most part agrees with it and then just adds to it, right? So if they said liquidity premium theory, I would look it up to be sure, but I would probably choose both.
Okay.
But these are the types of questions that are like word for word out of the book. Like you guys, those of you that looked it up in the book know the answer word for word, which is excellent, right? So, but I mean, also, are you going to go and read the book or the whole book the night before? Maybe not. Luca.
Yeah, so number 1 is what? Segmented marketing theory?
It's more liquidity premium theory.
Oh, it's it's liquidity. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not weird, but anyways.
Yeah, it's in the textbook, it's not really that long to read. It's maybe 2 pages and it talks about all of them. So if you're going to get asked a factual question, it's going to be aligned somewhere in those paragraphs, right? So it actually might be in your best interest to tonight, opening your textbook to these key theories and just reading that particular thing. That way tomorrow, hopefully, if let's say you're reading a question like, hey, I just read this last night, you might be able to connect the dots. But I mean, if you read it a month ago, no one really expects you to have memorized it. What page is it in the book? I honestly don't have the same version of the book as you guys do. So for me, it's page 127, which doesn't make any sense because it's page 12. But if you just open to page 12 and flip through it, you're going to see right away term structure of interest rates, and then it's all there. I would use, so the June Riley course pack is good. I would use the textbook because the questions you're going to get are going to be word for word from the textbook, right? Because it's coming out of a test bank. June Riley's course pack is great for explaining, but if you want to actually read it the way it's going to be asked, I would recommend reading it from the book instead, the textbook instead. Okay, so I think we've come to our conclusion. That answer here is 2, and we could go to the next thing. 19, Vanessa. Oh, you put A, okay. Maybe I'll pick on someone who hasn't spoken yet. Amira, what do you think?
I also did A
Why?
because if the US has a comparative advantage over Canada, then their opportunity cost is lower.
Yeah, that's good. The definition, right? Very good. Excellent. So it looks like everybody, almost everybody got it right. This is chapter 14. Okay, question 20. Let's ask William, how would you approach 20?
I haven't read it yet. Your receiving count.
William, you just did 308. You better get this right.
Yeah, man. It's a 308 question. If this were a 308 question, William, what does it sound like we're asking you to find? This is a present value question, exactly. And we learned the formula for the present value, right? It's just the future value over, in 308 we use K, in this class we use R, but it's basically the same thing, right? So if you're gonna have if you wanna have $200, that's the future value. Your interest rate is 6, and that's in 4 years. I feel like the answer is probably D here, just based on the poll.
I have a question.
What's up?
In this formula, FV, does it mean future value or face value?
Future value, but in the context of like a 0 coupon bond, the face value is the future value. But in the formula, FV is future value.
Okay, so the only time I'm going to use face value is with a 0 coupon bond?
Yeah, I mean, well, even a regular bond, basically, a face value, whether it's a coupon paying bond or a 0 coupon bond, the face value is always in the future. So we treat it in the formula as a future value.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Michael?
Yeah, John, I was wondering if this were to be like a long question, which it wouldn't, I don't think would be the case. If I put K instead of R, would they remove points for that?
No.
Okay, I'm just too used to the 308. Oh.
Yeah, that's fine. Boaz?
Are there any situations? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. What's up?
I'm wondering if there are like any other.
I lost you. Any other?
Because like with bonds, R is yield to maturity, and that's what confused me. And are there any other situations other than like saving accounts where we have to use the R as the interest and not the yield to maturity?
I mean, it's context based. Most of the time it'll be called an interest rate, but if the context is bond, we're going to call it a yield to maturity, but those two things are basically the same. But savings account, borrowing, right? Those contexts, you would use the term interest rate, but in a bond, it would be a yield. Yeah. I think it's mostly going to be, they're going to call it interest unless you're doing bonds.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. 21, Kenza. No pumpkins. Laura.
I went with A.
Yeah, that's the main assumption, right? So when we did this in class, I said, if you're going to only memorize a few things, the main thing to memorize for segmented market theory is that it completely disagrees with expectation theory. So the bonds of different maturities are not substitutes. That's an easy one. That's a free one.
Yeah, I got booted. I don't know what happened there. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
Still can't get it going on my computer. I don't know what happened.
You on your phone right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, keep trying. I mean, when you guys leave and come back in, I don't get notified, so you can leave and come back in as many times as you want. It's not bothering me. All right, next one. 22. 22, let's bother maybe Palwinder.
I put C.
Why?
Because when the labor market is uncompetitive, aren't they price makers? Because they don't have a lot of competition. And when they do have competition, they'll take any price they can get.
When labor markets are competitive, both business owners and workers are price makers. Yeah, so it's inverted basically. Both of these are inverted. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're both. This is like the theory, I think, from chapter 4 or 6. Let's see if I can find it. It's the labor chapter. It's either 4 or 6, but looks like most of you guys agree. Yeah, this is chapter. Oh, okay. I see it in chapter 5 a bit also. I'm not convinced that it's actually chapter 5. It is. Okay, so you find, if you want to read up on this, you find it in chapter 5.
John, I have a question regarding this.
Yeah.
Can you explain to me like the logic behind why this is the case? Like, I read it, I was like, it's kind of weird. I don't know.
So what's weird about it? If it's uncompetitive, right? It means that the market doesn't really set the price. The price is set by the worker or if there isn't really, let's say for the worker, right? If you don't have a million different jobs available to you, or rather if the market is not competitive, if the market is competitive, then the market equilibrium will set the price, right? So you can't demand a wage that exceeds what you should be paid according to the market because there's probably a million other people that can do the job, right? So you would be a price taker in that sense. So when the market is competitive, right, we're price takers. We take the market price.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right? When the market is not competitive, we can essentially set the price ourselves because there's no competition, essentially.
Like oil, right?
Like oil. Yeah. So that's not the labor market, but yeah, definitely. And the oil is not competitive, right? It's the price is not determined by market mechanism. It's definitely by whoever is controlling the price of oil. But yeah, oil is a good example.
So when we're competitive, it's price takers, and when non-competitive, we're price makers?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so like I said, if you go to chapter 5, there's like a section that says like when labor demand is like, it talks about competitive, non-competitive demand. There's some graphs there that you guys can read over. I think we saw some of these graphs in class together. Okay.
So the answer is
yeah, they're both wrong. So all right, 23. 23, let's bother David.
Hello?
Yo.
Okay. So I got A. So what it was the real exchange rate, I did 0.5 knowing that the British pound is the foreign currency, I did 0.5 times 140 over 160, and it gave me 0.4375. So A.
Pretty close to 4.4. Very good. Okay, yeah, let's chat. Yeah, what's up?
So I didn't know like the real exchange rate formula was to be used as like in like the numerator and denominator as for foreign price and domestic price in the formula. And what we used here is CPI. So like I'm just confused.
What is CPI?
It's like inflation, like the
No, we use CPI to measure inflation, but what is CPI? That's the problem. Okay. CPI stands for Consumer Price Index. It's basically the general price of things. So when I say the CPI is 160 in Canada, that's like the general price of all things is that.
Oh, okay. So it's still price, but it's for like a very basic price.
It's a price index. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good question though. How do we know the British pound is the foreign? The one is always the foreign. That's the trick. Michael?
Yeah, John, I used this formula, but like the one where it says 1 plus still gave the same answer, but I'm assuming it won't give the same answer if the numbers are smaller.
Yeah, that's it. The reason it gave you the same number is because that one got blended into the big numbers.
Okay, but then which formula is this? Because I thought it was
It is. You have two formulas for real exchange. If you look at your notes, you should have one that uses price and one that uses inflation. You're talking about the one that uses inflation. This is a price. So you take the nominal.
Okay, yeah. I see.
Foreign price or Anna.
If they would have given us like the prices of two like baskets of goods, like I guess a GDP, we would do the same, right?
It wouldn't call it GDP. The basket, like CPI is what you're describing right now.
Oh, that's CPI?
Mm-hmm. They wouldn't call it GDP. They wouldn't call it GDP. GDP would be wrong. CPI, price, one product, a bottle of wine, they could do it, right? As long as it's price and not GDP.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Ina?
Is it always foreign on domestic? Because I was able to tell that the pound was the foreign and Canadian was like domestic, but is it always like that? Like
real exchange rate, yes.
Okay, and if we had like inflation rates instead, it would still be like the foreign inflation rate on the domestic inflation rate equals whatever we're looking for.
Very good, exactly. It's always foreign on top, domestic at the bottom.
Okay, thank you.
Problem. Okay. Here is the next one, 24. 24, maybe Brandon. Dylan?
Yeah. So for 24, I chose D because that's what made the most sense.
Yeah, I mean, you should have this almost written in your notes, right? Steeper indifference curves means a higher value placed on leisure. 100% of you guys got that one right, so that's very good. Right, this is chapter 6.
John, I was wondering, steeper doesn't mean if it's like upward sloping or downward sloping, right?
No, it's always downward sloping.
Yeah, for this, okay.
Means steeper or flatter.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay, this is the question that was missing a table, so let me get it. I posted it on Discord yesterday. I just don't remember if I posted it in the public group. I thought I did, or in the private one. Or did I just DM it to you?
No, it was in the public group, I think.
It was? No. It was in the wrong group. I'll just put it on the screen. So this is what was missing in between. So the following production possibility schedule, that's the schedule. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys a second to look at it. I assume that only those of you that saw this yesterday have actually solved it, but you should be able to solve it on the spot. Any volunteers for this one?
I mean, I could give it a
Go ahead.
try. I wasn't sure for my answer at the end, but okay, we'll see. So I just found the comparative advantage for both of them.
Okay.
So for Canada,
Yeah.
so for Canada, since it's 25, what was it, buckwheat, gives them 7 corn. So for corn, so for 1 corn, it's 3.57 buckwheat.
So yeah, okay.
And I did the other one, but I don't think we need it. Like I did for buckwheat, but I don't think we need it since it's not one of the numbers in the question. So then I did US. So for 51 buckwheat, you get 12 corn, I think. Yeah. And then 1 corn is 4.25 buckwheat.
Okay.
So
So
then,
how did you read?
and I wasn't too sure. I put D.
D is yeah. So why D over B?
Because Canada has the comparative advantage in producing corn.
Yep.
So they would need at least 3.57 buckwheat just for them to want to import or export corn.
What's the rule for both countries to benefit? The world price has to be
in between.
In between, right? So it needs to be more than this and less than this.
True. That's an easier way
But-
of saying it.
But I mean, you reached the right answer, right? So that's really what I care about. But that'd be the fastest way. As soon as you see that, you're like, okay, it has to be between the opportunity cost. Your math is perfect, so it's got to be there. And they talk about Canada would not gain by producing and exporting corn unless, right? 1 corn was to okay, it's perfect. That's all they're asking you guys here. Maybe they word it in a way that's a bit confusing or whatever, but that all they're saying here is for both to benefit, price of corn should be in between the 2 opportunity costs. This is chapter 14.
John, what chapter was number 22?
On 5.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. 26. Brianna. Okay. Ariana.
I wasn't sure of this one.
Let's talk about.
Okay. So the first one, it says the liquidity effect of the growth of money supply leads to lower interest rates. The growth of money, yeah, well, at the beginning, no. So it will go down and then it will go up.
But the liquidity effect makes it go
down.
Very good. So that one's true. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, B.
Okay, liquidity preference model suggests that a higher GDP growth leads to a higher nominal interest rate. GDP growth, that I was hesitating on. I wasn't sure.
Okay, so we could pass it.
Okay. C is the price level effect of the growth of money supply leads to lower interest rates. So I think that's true.
Walk me through it, okay? So if we grow the money supply, what happens initially?
If we grow the money supply, doesn't that mean, yeah, we have lower interest, we have higher interest rates?
Well, no, initially, what happens? Remember, this axis here is the rate.
Okay, so then it goes down.
Right, and we called that before, we call that what? The first move is called the?
Oh my God, I forgot. Oh, the liquidity effect.
Very good. So now, over time, what happens? Over time, demand will start to shift to the right, okay? Which would cause rates to go back up.
Yeah.
And that's the income effect, price level effect, and expected inflation effect. That's causing the rates to go up.
Okay.
This is saying the price level effect, when you grow the money supply, leads to lower interest rates? No. it leads to higher interest rates.
Okay.
So just go before the exam tomorrow and just do a light review of, because you know it, right? It sounded like you knew it, but it's all a little bit blurry. So
Yeah.
go and remember that the first effect, the immediate effect, is called the liquidity effect, and then the other effects go the other way, right? They make the rates go back up, but they happen a little bit more slowly.
Okay.
So the answer here is C.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So we should all know that for the exam tomorrow. Like I think the most the main theory in chapter 11 is the liquidity preference framework and how changing the money supply will has different effects. Anna?
The only reason I got it right is because I knew like those definitions, but like I do not understand it, like what they mean by B and D. Like I have no idea what they are trying to tell us.
The liquidity preference framework suggests that when the bond market is in excess supply, the money market is in excess demand. You have a graph in your notes on this, right? We talked about this, how whatever's happening in one market, the opposite is happening in the other market. If there's a shortage of bonds, there's a surplus of money and vice versa, right? Go and check when we did it. In class, we had put two graphs side by side, right? I can show you. 220, this was class 6, I think. 7 maybe. Remember this?
Yeah.
Remember this?
Mhm.
So when one market is in has excess demand, the other market will have excess supply. When one market has a shortage, the other one will have a surplus. That's what D is saying, and it's true.
Okay.
And then for B, the liquidity preference framework model suggests that higher GDP growth leads to higher nominal interest rates. So higher GDP growth, what can we attach that to? We can attach that to, I guess, let's see, more income, I guess, let's see. So a higher GDP growth sounds like we're in an expansionary period, right? When things are going well, which would cause an increase in the demand for money and higher interest rates. So income effect. That's what I would connect it to B. But even if and I would probably pass B too. If I were reading it and I wasn't 100% sure, I'd be like, oh, pass. And then I read C, and then I know C is a slam dunk. Okay, great.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Perfect. So that's what you have to do on the exam. You're not expected to know why every question is right and why all the other options are wrong, right? Not necessarily. I mean, sure, it'd be great, but that's not what is expected of you. As long as you get it right, as long as you can really identify the one that's better than all the other ones, that's all we need. 27. 27, Dudley. Dara.
I put A for this one for 27. Not
Labor is less. You said A?
yeah,
Yeah.
because they said, like I read the notes and they said that capital like flows more easily because of low like costs.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't say anything about labor, so I just assumed.
I mean, and if you just read A, it kind of makes sense. Labor is less mobile today because of visa and work permits, and that's kind of true, right? So you tomorrow can't just go and get a job in the state of New York because of these different requirements. So I don't dislike A as an answer. It looks like the group agrees with you as well. Looking at the rest, raw materials and agricultural goods still represent the largest component. No. Capital flows as a percentage of GDP have an unprecedented level because both technology and investment opportunities were lacking before World War II. I think capital flow as a percentage of GDP is actually pretty similar now as it was 100 years ago. So it's not unprecedented. And labor is more mobile today because of cheap transportation. No, I agree with your answer.
Mm-hmm. Is this from like the today versus 100 years ago thing?
Yeah, it's part of that. So that in the notes talks like it gives you like kind of the big points, but then if you read the actual like if you go to that section of the textbook, I'm sure it talks about like this particular thing. But yeah, it's that topic. 28. 28 Ariel.
I actually don't know how to do this one.
Let's figure it out. So suppose Jenny has 16 hours of work to allocate between work and leisure, and she earns $25 per hour. If her utility maximizing point, she has 20 U tiles.
Originally, I did 25 times 20, but I figured it would be like more steps than that because her maximizing level of employment was 20.
John,
But she only has 16 hours.
Isn't MRS equals MUL over MUY?
Yeah, that's what I did.
Point where these two are equal is the maximizing point, though. That's what that's saying.
But yeah,
But-
isn't the point where they're equal? Isn't it equal to negative MUL over MUY?
Yeah.
So then, if you have her MUL.
You said the MRS to 25 and you do 20 over X.
I think there's a letter missing right here because I mean, if that's at MUL, then yeah, for sure. And then they're asking for MUY, so it really can't be anything else.
Yeah.
But let me just because no, what you guys are saying is correct. I assume 20 was MUL. That's looks like a fair assumption. Let me just find the original if I can.
It definitely is a L. I don't even think there's a comma there.
Yeah, I think the comma was actually the software mistook the L for a comma. Because yeah, they can't be anything. Yeah, it's an L. Yeah, if Jenny's MUL is 20, what is her MUY? So I guess for some of you guys, maybe that was the bug, so fair. But we learn in chapter 6, right, that MRS is, let me say MUL over MUY. So what did you guys do?
I set MRS to 25, which is the wage, and the MUL to 20, and I just solved for MUY and I got 0.8.
I guess that's what most of you guys assumed as well, looking at the poll.
But John, in my notes, I have that MRS equals negative MUL over MUY. So that gave me negative 0.8.
No, but then you also have in your notes that this is negative W, so they cancel out.
Wait, what
It's
is
just
negative?
Technically, look, if you look at the graphs, technically the budget line, the slope of the budget line is negative wage. And the slope of the indifference curve is negative MRS. But we can cross off the two negatives because they cancel out. That's why you never really see them used.
Okay.
So that's the issue. Do you get what I'm saying? Like they're both mathematically, they're both negative because they're both sloping downwards, but we ignore the negative because it cancels out.
Is the formula always like that? Or can it be MUY over MUL?
No. It should always be like this because you should always have income here and leisure here.
I always get confused on which one goes where. Like, is there a trick to know?
No, but I mean, not really. But
Okay, so let's say the graph actually, is income always on the vertical axis?
always income here, always leisure here.
Okay, maybe I can relate to that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I did 20 over 25 and got the same answer. Yeah, that's the algebra. That's the math to solve this. Lindsay?
I just wanted to know if this was like a bit of a useless step, but initially to find the slope, because I know it says like I guess I just wasn't paying attention when I was reading the question. But I did 25 times 16. I got 400, and then I did 400 divided by 16 to get the 25.
Did you went in a circle?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a useless step.
but because I remember that for the second, I think it was the second midterm, we had like a similar question to this. But I don't remember the part where it said the MRS equals W. Is that like always included in these kind of questions, or just this one specifically?
Actually nice. No, it's actually nice of them to do it, but you should know this by heart, that the utility maximizing level happens when the MRS is equal to the wage. That's part of what you need to know. Like this, that just means right there when they're both tangent.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, 29. 29. James. Constant marginal utility. What does that mean? If I show you this graph here, what does it tell you? That would be risk neutral. Risk loving this has increasing marginal utility. Risk averse, decreasing marginal utility. Go with your gut. Go with your gut. Yeah, because constant, it means that at every level, the person is essentially indifferent about risk. Right, so risk neutral. Right, this is the averse, and then this is the loving. Chapter 7, of course, for this one.
Loving would be increasing marginal utility of income. Okay.
Marginal utility, decreasing marginal utility, constant. John, what's up?
Yeah, I posted something on the Discord right now. On the last exam, there was like graphs like this, and you had to say if it was risk neutral or risk averse. I forgot what it was, but there was this graph that I posted on the Discord. What is that?
Utility.
It's like a downwards.
Downward sloping utility and
I think on the exam it was just to trick us. They just threw it in there.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, that doesn't look like, they should never be downward sloping, not this one anyways. Yeah, that's
okay. Thank you.
Okay, good. 30. Okay, this one is, I don't know if you guys caught that, but this is like a square root of I. Like that V is the square root. And I mean, that helped, I guess, but let me get, I don't know, Paul, what is the expected utility? Okay, how about Anne? How about Dara?
Okay, so for this one, I did the square root of 10,000, and then I multiplied that by 0.35, and I got, I don't know if I got 38 or 35.
Okay, so tell me your next step. We'll just do it in one shot. So after that,
And then I did square root of 15,000 times 0.65, the answer times 0.65, and I got 79.60, and then I added those up and I got 114.61, which is A.
excellent. Very good. You cannot get these questions wrong. Nobody did. That's a good sign, right? Perfect. Expected utility, right? It's any expected value. Probability times whatever. So in this case, probability times utility. Michael?
Yeah, John, when I started doing this question, I was doing that thing, you remember with the 4 steps there, where you do like the expected return and then expected utility. Yeah, what was that for?
Risk premium.
Okay, that's to find the risk premium that he'll pay.
Yeah, this is like the second step in that, but it's only the second step.
Yeah, I realized when I got to the second step, I'm like, oh wait, I just have to put this.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So done with the MCQs. Now we have some longer questions to do. I need, if you did it, put your answer in the chat for question 31. And if you want to do it, Rob, you want to start us off?
Actually, John, if you don't mind, I want to do 32.
No problem. How about Marianne?
What I did for that one, at first I wanted to look at the opportunity cost. So first I did the absolute. So for Germany and the pretzels, there's 40, and there's 61 pretzel in Canada. For the cars in Germany, there's 20, and then in Canada, there's 11.
Okay.
And then
you don't really need anything, right? The absolute is a pointless.
yeah, we know. Yeah, we just see which one is the bigger value. For the opportunity cost for Germany, I found that for pretzel, it gave us 0.5.
Right. If I divide both by 40, pretzel is 0.5 cars. Okay.
And there's 0.1803 for the cars for pretzels. 0.1803. Yeah, for Canada, yeah.
Okay.
For the Germany in cars, the opportunity cost was 2.
So 1 car is 2 pretzels.
Yeah, and for Canada, it's for the cars, it's 5.5454.
Okay. Oops.
After that, we know they give us the trade price, so like the 0.33 units of cars
for 1 pretzel.
So I gave that as the formula. It's like the world price minus opportunity cost times the unit. So with that, I gave 0.33 minus 0.1803, which is the Canada opportunity cost for the pretzel.
Yeah.
Close bracket, yeah, times the unit, which is 5,450. And that gave me the 815.865.
Okay, good. So I just want to make sure that nobody put this in dollars. This is measured in what? What's the unit? Is this cars or pretzels?
Units of cars.
This is cars. Okay, good. Yeah, perfect. So you found that Canada is going to export pretzels, first of all, because they had the opportunity, they had the lower opportunity cost. So when it says for every 50 units of goods that Canada produces, that's pretzels. Great. So then the world price of pretzels is 0.33. You use your formula for the gain. It's excellent. Everyone in the chat seems to agree with you. There's a little bit of rounding. 815 looks like a good 817 sounds like you rounded a bit early. 815 and 15, 817 also sounds like you rounded a bit early. That's what I think. If you got 817.5, you may have just used 0.18 here. Okay, try and use at least 4 decimal places in your work.
I have a question. The formula.
Okay. What about the formula?
Can you like write out what the actual formula is so I know like what the
Yeah. So this is the world price. This is the opportunity cost. And that's just the units that are being exported, basically, and that gives you your gain.
John.
Yeah.
So I did everything until I got to like that last formula where I did 5450 times 3.03 because I thought like gain from trade in terms of the other good. So I thought we had to find like the units of the other good.
Yeah, you did. Canada exports pretzels. Right.
Okay, so then so that step that I did right before, what is that for?
Say your step. What was the step you did?
I did I found the world price in terms of what is it, corn, cars, and I did the pretzel. Yeah, about 3. Yeah, and
You don't, because you don't need it because Canada exports pretzels, so you need the world price of one pretzel. That's what they're selling. Right?
okay,
You
so
need
then
this-
if it would have said, so what would it have said in the question at the end, like for me to do that step?
They would have probably have been talking about Germany, right? Because Germany is going to sell cars. So for that, if you were doing Germany, you need the world price of cars.
So if it would have said for every 5,450 units of goods that Germany produces,
Then you
what is
would
your
need to then you would need to change your world price to this.
and then I would times that